Chapter 14, The Time Trap. The ovoid drops beside the dais. Gregor Klon flings open the port and stands there, his cold eyes roving over the scene. He says harshly, "You take strange liberties, Nervor." As though sensing peril, Black Leopard and White slink onto the dais, ranging themselves on either side of the priestess. Nervor says, "These captives are of no value." "I am the judge of that. This man," Gregor Klon points at Mason, "I told you to leave alone." "I caught him with Li Kang in the hiding place of the invincible power." "You found it?" Mason reads eagerness in the master's eyes, and so he speaks quickly, breaking in before Nervor can answer. "She lost it for you, Gregor Klon. She burst in on us with her leopards and beastmen, and Li Kang destroyed himself and the treasure rather than let it fall into Nervor's hands." "Is this true?" The master glances at the priestess. "True, aye, as far as it goes, but ask him why he was seeking the invincible power. Ask him that." "I was seeking it for you," Mason says smoothly. "Li Kang set me free from my cell and told me he would not give the secret to you or Nervor. I convinced him that I could guard the power safely. I plan to secure it and give it to you, Gregor Klon, so that you could know what my aid is worth." "He lies," the priestess spits. "He lies." "Set him free," Gregor Klon says. No one moves for a while. Then the master's hand lifts in it a metal tube. A beam of light flickers out, touching one of the beastmen that holds Mason. The creature bellows in agony, claws at its chest, and drops. It is dead. The other beastman waits for no more. He flies into the throng. The two leopards move forward, guarding Nervor with their bodies, green eyes baleful. Mason swiftly turns to the windlass. He lowers Alesa to the dais and frees her wrists. Then he unbinds Eric and Murdoch. Nervor watches him, her lips a thin white line. Abruptly she turns on Gregor Klon and snarls, "I say this man lies, and I say he shall die, and the others." The master says in English, a language Mason does not realize he knows, "Come with me into the ship. Leave the others. Nervor means to attack, and the beastmen will follow her." Mason hesitates. His gaze goes to the time ship. "Their own vessel has been destroyed," Murdoch has said. Well, how can this situation be best turned to advantage? Suddenly Mason knows. It would be a long chance, a desperate one, but the only one possible. With a sudden movement, he springs down from the dais and is at Gregor Klon's side. His motion causes chaos. The priestess thrusts out her arms and screams a command. The leopards shoot forward, snarling. The beastmen surge closer, and Gregor Klon hastily leaps into his ship. Mason follows him. The port slams shut. Through the transparent wall, Mason can see Eric thrust Alesa behind him, guarding the girl with his body. Murdoch is not in sight. Mason looks around. He blessed the hours he had spent mastering the time ship's controls. This vessel is identical in construction. Gregor Klon is at the controls. He touches a button. The ship lifts half a dozen feet above the floor, out of reach of the beastmen. Mason sees the lever he has been searching for. He sidles close to it. Briefly, he feels an impulse to depend on his muscles to overcome Gregor Klon, but he knows that the master's atomic mesh armor is impregnable. No, it must be this way or failure. There is a sudden tension in the air within the ship, a gentle breeze that brushes Mason's face. Gregor Klon turns. For the first time, Mason sees motion on that tiny, mask-like face. Bewilderment, apprehension, rage twist the slitted mouth. The dwarf takes a step forward and pauses, gasping. The air pressure is changing. Mason has adjusted the atmospheric controls within the vessel, and now compressed air is pumping into the ship at dangerous speed. He has considered exhausting the air, creating a vacuum, but he knows that increased pressure will be far more harmful to Gregor Klon, and to himself also. Already an intolerable weight is pressing in his eyes and ears, and he finds it almost impossible to breathe. The atmospheric pressure bears down on his chest, expelling air with a rush. It is incredibly difficult to draw another breath. Gregor Klon's tiny mouth is wide as he gasps for air. He clutches at his belt and brings up the ray tube. A searing yellow beam darts out at Mason. He twists aside. The ray swings towards him. Blood pumps painfully in his temples, and he feels blinding agony as the pressure begins to collapse his capillaries and veins. The face of the master seems oddly distorted as Mason's eyeballs are crushed out of shape. The ray sears his shoulder. Grederklon staggers forward, and then what Mason had been waiting for happens. The huge cranium of Grederklon bursts and splattering and hanging in tatters like a smashed egg. The great brain, scarcely protected by a boneless membrane, crushes by the tremendous atmospheric pressure. The dwarfed body totters and falls. With every movement agony, Mason manages to lift an arm, turn off the air pump. He reverses it and feels a breath of relief and is once more able to see. Although Mason knows that sudden decrease of pressure can cause casein disease, the bends, he nevertheless sends the air pumping out as swiftly as he dares. Peering down through the transparent floor of the vessel, he sees the beast-men staring up. He sees Nervor near the dais, the leopards beside her. On the dais, unharmed, are Elisa, Murdoch, and Eric. Mason drives the ship down. Taking a chance, he swings open the door and for a second feels sick and dizzy with the atmospheric change. But already the beast-men are plunging towards him. He whirls and scoops up the ray tube from where it has fallen from Grederklon's fingers. Murdoch and the others run forward. Beast-men cut them off. Mason burns them down with the heat ray. A heavy weight lands on his back, and down he goes, the tube flying from his hand. Iron fingers dig into his neck. Mason reaches up and back and feels furry flesh under his hands. He bends forward suddenly, and the beast man, taken by surprise, goes hurtling down. His back hits the marble floor with a sickening crack. He lays still. Mason looks around. Eric and Eliza are beside him, the girl's nude body still flushed with the steam torture. Murdoch is running towards them, gripping the ray tube Mason has lost. The silver priestess stands on the edge of the dais, shrieking rage. Murdoch turns and sees her. He lifts the heat ray. From the tube, a yellow beam flashes out. And Nervor, the beast woman, priestess of Selene in Koh-i-Noor, stands frozen for a brief second, and then drops down silently and lays dead upon the marble. The black leopard screams, a cry that turns Mason a little sick, for he knows the relationship between Nervor and the leopard. The beast charges straight for Murdoch. He kills it with the heat ray. Then he turns and comes running towards the ship, scrambling with the others through the open port, slamming it shut, lifting the vessel into the air as a white fury raves and snarls against the transparent walls. The leopard Valesta. The beast-men surge in a mad charge that is insane with rage. Half involuntarily, Mason touches the controls and sends the ship into time. The fantastic scene outside is hidden by a curtain of darkness. The black veil lifts. They hang empty once more in the temple of Selene, but it is empty now. The bronze gates are ajar, and through them a pale, chill radiance creeps wanly, nor are there torches burning in the temple. It is dark and cold, cold. Age has dropped down upon it. "We are in the future," Murdoch whispers, with a glance at the dials. "A jump of 10 years. That hell of a battle that had raged a moment ago is in reality 10 years in the past. Silently, he brings the ship down. At his feet is the mangled body of Grederklon, and he puts this outside the ship without looking at the ruined head and face. "We cannot stay here long," Murdoch says. "The solar radiation has waned. I think life will not exist long on the Earth, save in the globes of refuge. It will be 100 years and more before the sun regains its former brightness and the sleepers awaken. But let us see what 10 years has done to Koh-i-Noor." "Is it safe?" Eliza whispers. "Safe enough," Murdoch tells her. He leads the way out of the ship. Gloom shadows the great temple. The jungle has encroached with weeds and fungi and grass. One of the arms of the statue of Selene has fallen. It is utterly silent. Eliza comes into the circle of Mason's arms. She is shivering. Murdoch says, "One moment, I have something to tell you." Mason turns. Murdoch is standing beside the port of the ship, a dozen feet away. He holds the heat ray in his hand. His red hair looks black in the shadow. "Don't come any nearer," he goes on. "I do not wish to kill you. I prefer to leave you here alive." Unbelievingly, Mason takes a step forward. Murdoch's hand steadies. The ray tube is aimed at his middle. "Stop where you are," the other says warningly. "I mean it." "Murdoch," Eliza gasps. "What are you doing?" Doing? I'm doing what Greta Klon planned. You never knew why I didn't wish to return to my own time. I'm an outlaw there, a hunted criminal. I tried to overthrow the rulers and escaped only by flight across the desert, where the time trap caught me. Oh, you've aided me, the three of you, aided me in overcoming Greta Klon. But now that he's dead, it will be possible for me to do as he intended, conquer a time sector and rule it. You dog, Eric roars, pale eyes blazing. You foul traitor. Say what you like, but come no nearer, or you'll die. The master's plan shall be carried through as he intended. With this difference, I'll take his place. As for you three, I shall be merciful. I'll leave you here. Perhaps you will live for a time. Perhaps the decreased solar radiation will kill you soon. Mason feels Eliza's slim, nude body shrink against his. His throat feels dry and tight. To fail now, though Murdoch's betrayal after their struggle, the idea is insupportable. Mason glances at Eric and catches a look of understanding in the Sumerian's eye. They will attack at the same time. Murdoch would certainly kill one of them, but perhaps the other. Murdoch realizes their intention. His jaw tightens. He lifts the ray tube as Mason's muscles tense. And then, out from the shadows charges the impossible. A white, roaring thunderbolt that crashes down on Murdoch and sends the man toppling back, struggling vainly against the creature. Instantly, Mason knows. Valesta, the white leopard. For 10 years she has lurked in the temple, watching and waiting for the man who had slain the silver priestess. And now, after a decade, he has returned to the fangs and claws of vengeance. The heat ray blazes out, flesh ribbons under tearing talons. From Murdoch comes a shrill, agonizing cry that screams up and up unendurably, and ends suddenly in a choking, wordless sound that is sheer horror. Then it is over. Man and leopard lay still and silent, unmoving, dead. Mason feels a queer sense of unreality as he closes the port of the time ship after he follows the others aboard. He glances out at the vast, gloomy temple of Selene, sagging into dark ruin. There is an overwhelming awe upon him as he thinks of the countless lives that have existed in dead Koh-i-Noor, the incredible multitude of people that will dwell upon the earth until the last man gaps out his breath in the chill twilight of a heatless, lightless planet. He shudders involuntarily. Eliza moves close, her golden eyes tender. Mason, glancing down, feels his depression leave him. Eliza, he says softly. What now? We can return. The girl's voice is hesitant. Return? Bah, Eric grunts. I am tired of Albacar, Maison. Also, I am tired of my world. This world of yours now. I should like to see it. And I should like to be with you. But, he hesitates, an odd look in the pale eyes. But I serve you, Eliza. If you wish me to go back to Albacar, why, I shall keep faith. But by Eliel, Maison is the man I cleave to. I think you are right, the girl says, but what does Mason think of this? For answer, Mason takes a step forward, grips the Sumerian's brown hands. We have fought well together, he says, and we will have more battles. All that I have is yours, Eric. If you come with me, I do not think you'll regret it. And I, Eliza breaks in. Mason turns. You will go back to Albacar, I suppose, he says, in a dull ache in his throat at the thought of losing the girl. I know how to work the time ship. I can... Oh, Kent, you fool, Eliza murmurs. We too have fought together and would have died together. My people are safe in Albacar now. Nothing draws me back there. But will you let me join you and Eric? For answer, Mason takes Eliza into his arms. Let you? It's the only thing I want, but I didn't dare ask. The girl gives a little chuckle as she leans her bronze curls against Mason's shoulders. I would not have let you escape me, Kent. Never fear that. The Sumerian gives a deep-throated laugh. Come, Maison, let us start. I am anxious to see this world of yours. Okay, Mason smiles. And if you don't like it, well, we still have the time ship, perhaps. He didn't finish. He touches the instrument panel, and the veil of blackness drops down, and Eliza kisses him. The end of The Time Trap by Henry Cutler, written in 1938.